Hello and welcome to a special interview for The Wire supported by Glenlivet Books. Arnab Goswami's alleged WhatsApp conversations have not only created a storm of controversy, but they've raised important questions about propriety and about whether they breach the law of the land. Those are two key critical issues I should raise today with one of India's best known Supreme Court lawyers, Prashant Bhushan. Prashant Bhushan, for the purposes of this interview, let's assume that Arnab Goswami's alleged WhatsApp correspondence is both authentic and accurate. And on that basis, let me first ask you, what do you make of the fact that it appears he knew about the Balakot strike and the impact it would have 3 days before the strike happened? Is this a breach of the Official Secrets Act, as some people have claimed?
Yes, in my view, it is a breach of the Official Secrets Act. If he was told about the Balakot strike before the strike, as it appears to be the case from the chats which have come out. But more importantly, it shows this particular chat shows that he and the government and the PM in particular formed a cozy club in which of course, the Balakot strikes were clearly being used by the government for winning the elections. That's a very, very damaging thing. If government security is being toyed around in this manner to win the elections, that's a very serious matter. That's what the chats appear to suggest. And secondly, the strikes were also being used and advance information given to Goswami for him to increase his TRP ratings. So it was the government and Goswami formed a cozy club in which his channel was being used to promote the government's political interests, and the government was in turn promoting his commercial interests. And at the expense of national security, all this was being done at the expense of national security and by breaching the Official Secrets Act.
Let me put a contrarian viewpoint to you. It's no secret that politicians frequently tip off friendly journalists about what they propose to do. And let's be honest, it happens probably in every single democracy of the world. It happens very frequently in America and England. In this specific instance, all that Arnab Goswami was told was one, something big would happen, and secondly, that it wouldn't be, or it would be more than, a cross border strike. Surely those two together do not amount to a breach of security.
Well, you see, for the government to reveal anything about a planned strike to anybody outside the government or anybody outside those who are supposed to know, because this information could and would have leaked out even to Pakistan, thereby clearly damaging the whole intent behind this sort of surprise strike, etc. And it's quite possible that this may have happened because one of our planes was shot down and one of our pilots was held captive by the Pakistan.
Can I interrupt? The plane was shot down not during the Balakot strike, but during India's defense of the retaliatory strike by Pakistan. But let me take up the first point you made. That it's quite possible, you said, Pakistan could have been alerted because of the fact that this had leaked. I put it to you that the second the Pulwama strike happened, Pakistan would have known India would hit back. They wouldn't have needed Arnab Goswami to confirm that fact. So the possibility of this leaking to Pakistan is not just minimal, it's actually something that's hard to believe happened because Pakistan would have known there would be a strike. They don't need Arnab to confirm it.
No, Pakistan doesn't need to know that there need not have been a strike. And even if there was, the timing of that strike would not be known to Pakistan normally if it was kept a secret, closely guarded secret within only those military officials and the prime minister and the defense minister. If you are letting out this kind of information to a journalist and that journalist is boasting about it in a WhatsApp chat to a friend and compatriot who is helping him fix the TRP ratings, etc., then clearly you are running the risk of even letting Pakistan know and thereby harming our security interests. So it's certainly a very serious breach of national security and a violation of the Official Secrets Act. If any specifics about this thing was made known to Goswami, which appears to be the case from the chats.
Okay, what about the point made by Rahul Gandhi? He says that this leak to Arnab Goswami would also have endangered the lives of Indian Air Force pilots. Do you accept that, or do you think that's
Yes,
going
of
one
course.
step too far?
No, of course it would endanger the lives of the Air Force pilots, because if Pakistan came to know whether by tapping his WhatsApp conversations, or see, this is only a conversation with Partho Dasgupta. We don't know to who else he boasted, and therefore how this information could have leaked out to the Pakistanis. And if it did leak out to them, it would certainly endanger the lives of the Indian pilots who were involved in that strike.
You're making a very important point. It's not necessarily the conversation Arnab Goswami had with Partho Das Gupta that would be a cause of endangering either Indian Air Force pilots or leaking information to Pakistan. It's the possibility that if Arnab is speaking openly to Porto, he's spoken equally openly to others, and that's where leaks could have happened.
Yes, yes, of course. And we don't know who else was told apart from Arnab by whoever it was within the government. So, therefore, this is a matter which needs serious investigation, because it would be a serious breach not only of Official Secrets Act but of national security.
That's another important point you made. If whoever leaked to Arnab could have leaked to Arnab, it's quite possible they could have leaked to others. And those again would be sources of letting the Pakistanis know in advance what was planned. In other words, if you leak to one person, there's a very good possibility you've leaked to others. And that's why this matter needs to be investigated scrupulously under the Official Secrets Act. Is that a correct understanding of what you're saying?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely, Karan.
Let's then come at this point to a second aspect of these alleged WhatsApp conversations. What about the claim that these conversations suggest that Arnab was willing to help Partho Das Gupta get a job in the PMO? And he seems to say that with sufficient confidence to suggest he can succeed in getting him that job. Does that suggest journalism and journalists bragging, or does this suggest something a lot worse?
No, given the manner in which the government and their ministers went out to defend Arnab Goswami in the case where he was being sought to be arrested by or was arrested by the Mumbai police, given the manner in which the Prime Minister was promoting his channel on television some time back, it's quite likely that he was not merely bragging, but he indeed had the kind of influence which he brags about, not only within the PMO, but among all the ministers. He says, all the ministers in this government are with me in one of his chats. So, therefore, he clearly, as I said, the chat suggests that this government and its ministers and Arnab Goswami formed a cozy club by which he would use his channel to promote the political interests of this government, as he has done throughout, and in turn, the government would help him commercially to promote his channel and its TRP ratings.
Let me pick up on what you're saying. There is sufficient evidence, you suggest, in the rest of the conversations to believe that Arnab has the capacity to get someone like Partho Das Gupta a job in the PMO. Even if that's true, it's not a crime. Loads of people can have the capacity to persuade the PM or to persuade the principal secretary to the PM to employ someone, but it's not a crime to do so.
Well, it's certainly very unethical for any journalist to use his clout as a journalist to promote a friend or to get a job within the PMO, etc. And it's certainly unethical for the government to leak out information to that journalist in order to boost his TRP ratings. And that's, I mean, this is the least thing. That is, it is totally unethical. It shows that this is not at all an independent media, that this is just a propaganda arm. What he is running is a propaganda arm of the government, and that the government is helping him in turn. As I said, it shows a cozy club type of relationship between him, the PM or the PMO, and other ministers in this government, where both are helping each other. Government interest or media interest be damned. I mean, he's not doing the job that the media is supposed to do. He has reduced himself, as the chats show, to a propaganda arm of the government.
Then you're saying a very important thing. You're saying in this instance, and maybe this also applies to the earlier example we discussed about details of a strike being made known to Arnab, the issue really is one of propriety and ethics rather than one of criminal or illegal behavior. Particularly when we talk about Arnab suggesting he can get someone he knows a job at the PMO, the issue is one of propriety and ethics, correctness of behavior rather than criminal behavior.
Well, it could also be criminal behavior because under the Prevention of Corruption Act, uh, just like bribing a public servant is an offense, in this kind of thing, this is akin to bribing. When you are using your channel to promote the commercial interests of or to promote the political interests of the government, and thereafter if the government gives you or somebody in the government gives you a favor by giving you advance information of the strikes, etc., or any other information to boost your TRP ratings and help you commercially, that would amount to a bribe under the Prevention of Corruption Act.
This is a very important point you're making, so I'm repeating it simply to ensure that the audience understand it correctly. You're saying if in return for any favor you've done to the government by promoting its political interests on your channel, you are given advance information of a strike that will also help your channel, that would amount to a bribe being given by someone in government to a channel owner. And therefore, it would be a breach of the Prevention of Corruption Act.
It's a bribe given to the public servant. So, for example, if he wants to promote the political interest of the prime minister by using his channel in order to, as he says, in this we won like crazy. In this Balakot strike where 40 of our soldiers were killed, he says we won like crazy. And he is boasting about the fact that his channel reached there within minutes of the strike happening, thereby also suggesting that he may have had some kind of advance information, or at least he was informed immediately about this so as to be able to use his channel to promote the political interests of those in power and help them win the elections. So it's a kind of bribe given by him. I mean, it's a kind of quid pro quo on both sides. So therefore, that's also an aspect which would have to be considered under the Prevention of Corruption Act as to whether it amounts to an offense under the Prevention of Corruption Act. Because bribe is not merely money. It need not be a transaction of money. It could be a transaction of any other kind of influence or any other kind of favor. Yeah.
Absolutely. So just to tie up this little bit, this issue of what the information Arnab was given in advance about the Balakot strike amounts to, it amounts to two things. One, a breach of the Official Secrets Act, which went on, you argue, to endanger the security of India, the safety of Indian Air Force pilots, and also to tip off Pakistan an enemy. But the second thing it amounts to is potentially a bribe under the Prevention of Corruption Act. It comes under both. Isn't that right?
Yes, it can come under the Prevention of Corruption Act also, because in a way he was also bribing the government by using his channel to promote the political interest by getting this advance information. I mean, they were in a kind of a criminal conspiracy, the government and him, so that his channel could be used to promote the political interests of the government, and in turn the people in the government were giving him information so that that information could also be used to promote their political interests. Yes, it's a matter which needs to be investigated.
On these two issues, whether he's breached the Official Secrets Act, i.e. whether the government has breached the Official Secrets Act, and on the second issue, whether this amounts to a bribe under the Prevention of Corruption Act, can this issue be raised by any third party? Is it an issue that you, as a lawyer, can yourself bring up in front of the Supreme Court?
Yes, it can be brought up. It can be brought up. Any act of corruption is a public crime, and even a breach of the Official Secrets Act is a public crime, and anybody can take it up.
Will you take it up? Will you take it up?
You see, taking anything up before the Supreme Court or taking anything up before the courts is not merely now a matter which you decide on the basis of whether there is substance in your case or not. You have to take all kinds of other things into consideration, given the kind of attitude that the courts have displayed recently in matters affecting the political interests of the government.
Okay, let's then come to the third aspect of these alleged WhatsApp correspondence or communication. Isn't there a clear suggestion there that Arnab Goswami and Partho Das Gupta were colluding to tamper with or rig TRPs? And does that amount to criminal collusion?
Yes, that is very, very obvious. I mean, a large part of the conversation is devoted to how to fix the ratings or how to manipulate the ratings in order to improve the TRP ratings of Arnab's channel, and how to downgrade the ratings of other channels, competitive or competing channels, etc. So that element of manipulation of TRP ratings, whether it is due to bribes given by Arnab Goswami to Partho Das Gupta, as has now emerged from some statement that he appears to have made to the Mumbai police, or whether it is only because of their friendship or because of their past association or friendship, etc. But this much is very clear from the chats, that clearly the TRP ratings were being manipulated to improve the ratings of at least Republic TV, perhaps others also, and downgrade the ratings of some of the competitor channels. That is absolutely clear.
Are these WhatsApp communication or correspondence available to the court as credible evidence? Will it be accepted by the court as credible evidence, as admissible evidence?
Yes, it can certainly be accepted as admissible evidence, because this can be authenticated by WhatsApp. WhatsApp can be asked to authenticate that. There should be no difficulty in getting them authenticated. And in any case, you see, I have always, as soon as I saw these chats, I could make out that these are authentic, these are not fabricated. Just as when the Radia tapes came out and I saw the substance of those conversations between Neera Radia and Ratan Tata or Ambani, etc., it became clear to me that this is not fabricated, these are genuine, because there is a ring of truth to the nature of the conversations, to what is being talked about at what time, etc. You can make out, and such complex conversations or detailed conversations can't be fabricated.
A moment ago, you alluded to a story on the front page of today, the 25th Indian Express, which alleges that the police have a handwritten letter from Partho Das Gupta, where he accepts that he was given $12,000 and a total of 40 lakh in cash by Arnab Goswami to fiddle the ratings. Now, Partho Das Gupta's lawyer has told the Indian Express this is not admissible as evidence in court. What's your belief? Is a handwritten note, which furthermore has two witnesses, admissible in court as evidence, or will it be questioned on the grounds that the letter was written under duress?
No, it can be questioned on the ground that it was written under duress. So it would have to be, again, it would have to be corroborated by actual statement of Partho Das Gupta in the court. So because this is a statement which is alleged to have been written while he was in police custody or while he was in custody. So therefore, that by itself would not be admissible. He can always deny it by saying that, look, it was written under duress or coercion, etc. And therefore, he would need to be examined and cross-examined in court about this. And only then would it.
We're coming to the end of this interview. Let's come back to Arnab Goswami's WhatsApp correspondence or communication, and I should add alleged WhatsApp communication. Now, the important thing is these were communications or messages exchanged between two adults. It is their private correspondence with each other. They have not consented to being made public. So now that it has been made public without their consent, is there an issue of breach of privacy here?
No, because there is no privacy in a criminal conspiracy or criminal acts, etc. So therefore, just like the Home Secretary can authorize the tap of somebody's private telephone on the ground that it is necessary for detecting a crime or for investigation of a crime, etc. So therefore, any privacy cannot be used to prevent investigation or detection of a crime. And here clearly the police was investigating this crime of manipulation of TRP ratings, etc., for which it is entirely legitimate for them to seek this kind of information, even from WhatsApp.
Let me pursue that point like this. The police were investigating alleged manipulation of TRPs by Goswami and Das Gupta. In the process, they stumbled upon information about the Balakot strike that raises questions about whether the Official Secrets Act was breached and also whether possibly the Prevention of Corruption Act was breached. But what about leaking or making available to the public conversations to do with one man helping another man get a job? There's no criminal offense there. Should that have been made public?
No, the thing is that the police, in order to provide this evidence with their charge sheet, they filed it with their charge sheet, and the entire conversation has to be filed because they can't cut and snip this conversation. So whatever they had their hands on, they filed it in order to show its authenticity. So that is perfectly all right. I mean, in this case, this is not just a collateral damage, but it's also in the interest of national security that this kind of sort of very, very cynical use of promoting your political and commercial interests at the expense of national security, at the expense of the Official Secrets Act, this needs to be outed. And I'm glad in public interest that this has been outed.
One last issue. These exchange of messages happened on WhatsApp. And WhatsApp is very proud. In fact, WhatsApp boasts of the fact that they provide end-to-end encryption. In which case, is there not a question to ask, how did the police get in their possession correspondence or communication that is guaranteed by WhatsApp to be encrypted? How did the police get hold of it?
No, this is probably they have got from Partho Das Gupta's phone, which had the WhatsApp, because both users would have proper conversations on their phone. So they have probably got it from Partho Das Gupta's phone. So that encryption is not the issue in this case. I don't think that they have decrypted or whatever. They have seen it from Partho Dasgupta's phone, which would have the text.
All right. I'll come back to that issue I raised a moment ago. I'll come back to you again. You have made what many hearing this interview will believe is a very convincing case, particularly about perhaps the manner in which the Prevention of Corruption Act has been breached. A cozy club established where the government on the one hand and Arnab Goswami on the other were scratching each other's back to promote each other's interests, and that this can easily be interpreted as a breach of the Prevention of Corruption Act. I'm deliberately sidestepping the issue of whether the Official Secrets Act was breached or not. There, people might have differing viewpoints, but the argument you made about the PCA sounded very convincing. Are you sure you don't want to raise this matter? You are perhaps the only lawyer in the country who might have the gumption and courage to do so. If you don't, it may never get to court and never be adjudicated upon. So I repeat that question. Are you sure you don't want to do so?
See, the problem is today, given the atmosphere in the courts, you see, the farmers didn't want to engage in any court-appointed committee because they have no confidence in the impartiality or the independence of the courts anymore. So therefore, going to court is not just based on whether what you have with you is a matter of breach of law and a matter of public interest or not. One also has to see what is the atmosphere in the courts these days and whether the courts are independent enough to take this kind of a robust stand involving the government's political interests.
In other words, you've lost confidence in the Supreme Court the way it stands today. That's what you're saying politely, aren't you?
Yes, unfortunately, that's true.
On that rather sorry note, thank you very much for this interview. And in particular, Prashant Bhushan, thank you very much for opening the eyes of the audience to the fact that the Prevention of Corruption Act has perhaps been breached in what you call this cozy relationship. One last quick question. Of the two charges, breaching the Official Secrets Act and breaching the Prevention of Corruption Act, which one do you think presents a better case in court in this instance?
No, I think the Official Secrets Act is certainly at least potentially breached, and that's a matter which needs to a very serious investigation, because that's a matter of breach of national security also. There is a serious breach of national security if advance information about the strikes was given to Goswami, as the chat suggests. Now, so far as the Prevention of Corruption Act is concerned, I think that's a matter which needs much closer examination. Prima facie, it appears to be a breach of the Prevention of Corruption Act also. Prima facie, it appears to involve a violation of the Prevention of Corruption Act as well.
Prashant Bhushan, thank you very much for making things crystal clear. Take care, stay safe.
Thanks, Karan.